Hi there, everybody. Good morning. Just going to wait for a couple more minutes as we look to have a few people still joining the webinar. So if we could just give me another minute or two and we'll get started. Thank you. Okay, so I think we've got most people in now. I think more people will perhaps join in the next minute or so, but we'll get started. So welcome everybody, and thank you for joining me on today's webinar. So I'm Scott. I'm part of the training and support team for Teachers to Parents, and on today's webinar, we're going to take a look at some of the sort of common support queries that are coming through to our support team this September. So we're going to take a look at some of those and some of the sort of checks you can do in the system to make sure that everything is running as smoothly as possible. Also, before we do get started on that, we've got a couple of things to show you. So the first thing that we've got, we've got two documents to show you. These are available in the handout section of GoToWebinar. So as you've joined this webinar, you should see a handout section where you can download these little documents. The first one that I'll show you is this messaging guide here. So we've sort of created this document to assist our schools in optimizing the use of the system, ensuring they deliver the right message at the right time. So you can have this PDF, refer back to it at any point. And there's a few pointers on there about the Teachers to Parents text messaging system. So the next document that we've got is to do with one of our other systems that we also offer. We offer a school payment system. You may have heard of it. If not, it's called School Money. Allows you to complete all of your payments in one place. Works in a very similar way to Teachers to Parents. In fact, parents can actually use the EduSpot app for both their Teachers to Parents messages and their payments needs as well. So it's a very, very useful system, and it's good having it all under one roof. Got a little document in here for you to look at. Again, it's in the handout section. And in here, it's just if you're using like a BACS sort of system at the moment or process for taking payments from parents, this document just gives you a bit of information and things to consider when switching or if you are considering an online payment system as well. And again, that is in the handout section of GoToWebinar. So feel free to download those and take a look. Also, regarding School Money, after the webinar, you're going to receive an email with a link which will be for booking a demonstration of School Money, should you wish to do so. When you click on the link from within your email, it's going to bring you to this webpage just here. So just want to show you just how easy it is to sort of book in a demonstration of school money with one of our teams so they can show you how useful it is. So from here, you will see on the right hand side here, we just scroll down. You can select which day you would like to do a demonstration on. So if we were to go for the 15th next week, and then you can see here duration is 60 minutes, so you can choose what time of the day would be best suited for you. So if we say 2 o'clock, you confirm, and then all that you're doing here is you're just filling in your details. You fill in your own details with your email address. You can add guests in as well if there are others within the school that you'd like to sit in on a demonstration, and then just fill in the details for your school. And any extra information for our team that would help prepare the demonstration for you, and then you can schedule the event from there. Okay, so that's everything on that one. So we're going to move on to now the main content of today's webinar, which is to take a look in the Teachers to Parents system, have a little look around at regular sort of support queries that are coming through to us this year. So I'm going to go into my Teachers to Parents demo account here. Now in Teachers to Parents, a lot of the support queries are always going to come through regarding the contacts that you have in the system, so the students that you have in there. Now what we can do is we've given the ability for you to check when we last did an import in the system, and also to check the contacts that you have within Teachers to Parents. Now a lot of people will check their contacts by using this main drop down on the main page, and they will look at the contacts from here. However, this is good, but there is a better way to check the details that you have in your account, and that is to go into the admin section in the top right hand corner, and then go to the third tab along, which you will see says contacts. Now in here, you are going to see a list of all of the contacts that are stored within your Teachers to Parents account. And another thing that's useful in here is that on the right hand side, you may need to use this scroll bar at the bottom to scroll across. But on the right hand side, you will see a column that says last imported on. So in here, you will see a time and a date next to some of your contacts. Now, for those that do have a time and date in this final column, these are contacts that are being imported from your school MIS, whether that be SIMS, Integris, Facility, whichever one you use. And that time and date is just going to explain to you when they were last updated from that management information system. So those that don't have the time and date in the column, such as these two at the top, these ones are contacts that have been added into the system manually. And what I mean by that is that you've used the button in the bottom right to add a contact into the system. Now, if you have added a contact into the system manually, then they do also need to be edited manually as well. And to do that, you can either double click into their particular row, or you can tick the box next to them, and in the bottom right, click on edit, and then you can change the details and save it that way. You'll only need to do this for those that don't have the time and date in that final column, because as I say, those that do have the time and date, they're being imported. So long as it's all correct in your MIS, then that information should come across into our system all okay. So speaking of how we get information into our system, so there's a couple of different import methods that you may use to get information into Teachers to Parents. So for those that use SIMS, you will likely have our own SIMS link, which you'll be using to import details into Teachers to Parents. Now this SIMS link is usually in the form of a little red box or a little cog icon that will be on your desktop, and that will be installed by ourselves in the past, and you've been using that to update the system. Now when you run that link, that is a direct import from SIMS into Teachers to Parents. So that will take the data from SIMS as it stands and import it into our system. For those of you that don't use SIMS, or for those of you that do use SIMS but don't use that SIMS link, the other option is that you may be using Wand. Now Wand, if you do use Wand, it's in the admin section. It is the final tab across the top just here. Now, if you do use Wand, then the Wand school ID in the top left, this will be filled in and pre-populated for you, so you don't need to change that. Same with the tick box. Depending on what management information system you use, this box will either be ticked or unticked, so you won't need to change any of those details. If you are using Wand to import details into Teachers to Parents, the only button you need to be concerned on on this tab is the button that says import student details in the bottom right hand corner, which is the button that you need to use to import from your MIS into Teachers to Parents via Wand. Now, do bear in mind that the update from Wand into Teachers to Parents is not automatic. You do need to click on that button in order to trigger the import process. It only takes a few seconds to complete, so we do advise that you use that feature as often as you want. So just to talk a little bit more about Wand and how it does actually work. So Wand is a connection that we use for some MIS systems to bring details into Teachers to Parents. And the way that it works is Wand will pull data from your MIS periodically throughout the day. It's every few hours. And what they do with that data once they've pulled it from your MIS is they store it on their own cloud base. So if you imagine Wander up there on the cloud and they're pulling data from your MIS every few hours throughout the day and storing it within themselves. Now, when you click on the Import Student Details button in the bottom right just here, Teachers to Parents will import data from that cache that Wand are storing online. The reason I explain this is because there are certain things to just watch out for. So if you are using Wand and in your MIS you make a change to a phone number right now, and you've made that change in your MIS and you've saved it, and then in Teachers to Parents you use the Import Student Details button on Wand and you don't see the details come across. Chances are it is because Wand has not taken that fresh data yet. So usually what we would say is if you are using Wand and the information that you're wanting to come across into Teachers to Parents hasn't, we would usually recommend giving it a couple of hours and then trying the import again just to see if that rectifies the situation. So that's a little bit of information about how we import data into the system. Now, however you do import data, whether it is via Wand or whether it is via our Sims link for those of you that use it, once you have done an import in Teachers to Parents, one of the key things that you must do is refresh the Teachers to Parents web page. Okay, now you can also, a lot of people will log out and log back in again, but refreshing the web page achieves the same thing with less effort. So you can either press F5 on your keyboard to refresh a web page, or you've got the refresh button. Usually looks like this. So I'm using Google Chrome as my internet browser at the moment, so that's what the refresh button looks like. For those of you that use Edge, it does look very similar. So what you would do is you would refresh the page and then go back into the admin section, look at the contacts. Okay. Now, once you have done an import, when you do refresh the page and look at the contacts, what you're checking is this last import date again. You want to check to see if the date is updated to the current date and time. If it has, your import has completed and the updated changes are reflected. If the date and the time has not changed, this can happen for one of two reasons. The first reason is that if there has been no change in data between now and when you last did an import, then the time and date won't change because our system will only complete the import if it detects a change in the data compared to the last import. So that is one reason why the time and date wouldn't change. If you know that you have definitely made changes and the last import date still hasn't changed, it might be an MIS issue. So it might be that you've put a phone number into your management information system and then you've tried to import the data into Teachers to Parents. That number's not come across. Now, it could be that you've got the number in the wrong format in the MIS. So depending on what management system you use, we are looking for things like the main priority for a student in your MIS. Parental responsibility is another one that's commonly overlooked, and also making sure that the mobile number is in the correct place as well. Now, what you could do if you're not sure on the criteria that needs to be met in your MIS in order for us to import data, what you could do is look in your contact list in Teachers to Parents, and you could look for a contact in Teachers to Parents that has a last imported date and has a phone number, and then compare it to one that is perhaps missing the phone number but does have a last imported date. And what you could do is you could use that and then compare in your MIS, compare and contrast and see what is different between the two. And you should be able to work out from there what needs to be done in order for us to pull across that data that's missing. If you've gone through all of that and you are still unsure, then of course log a support ticket with us and we will take a look at it with you. So the next thing that's on our list for today is regarding your new intake. So this is something that we get very, very common at the sort of first week or so of September when you come back to school. And it's regarding importing new students from your MIS into Teachers to Parents. Very common thing. But one key thing that we like to say is we do not import new students until their first day attended. We don't import children that are not admitted. So the start date needs to have passed for them in the MIS. They need to have been marked down as attended in the MIS on that start day for us to be able to import them. So this is a very common issue for September because you'll come back on your first day and perhaps you haven't seen the new intake in there just yet. As I say, we only import students that are officially classed as on roll within your MIS. So that could be a reason to not see your new intake. Once all of this is all passed and you have all of your students in the system, so all of your children, your new intake are in, all of your children moved up year groups, what you can also do in Teachers to Parents is use our report section to look for missing details in the system. So in the top right, we've got our report section. And in here, there are two reports that you can use. There's one for missing and invalid numbers, and there's one for missing and invalid emails. Now, what these two reports do is they look at the contact section within the admin part of Teachers to Parents that we were just looking at, and anybody whose details are missing from there, it will compile those into these two reports. So what you can do is you can print the reports off and use these to cross-reference with your MIS to check why the data is missing. As I say, either you've not got the data in there at all, or you do, it's just in perhaps the wrong format or the wrong place. But these two reports will help you sort of narrow down those that are missing the details so that you can go back and check those. So another issue that we are experiencing this year is for those of you that use Sims, this will apply to. In our user guides, we will explain how you can download our Sims link to import details into Teachers to Parents. However, for those that are using Google Chrome, there's a little bit of a sticking point in there, and that is that Chrome will not allow you to download it straight away. Now, I'm going to show you how this looks because it's something that's very easy to fix. So for those of you that use Sims and you're trying to install the link, we've got this Setup Sims tab. And again, this is in the admin section of Teachers to Parents. Depending on whether your Sims is locally hosted or centrally hosted will depend on whether you use the Sims link version 44 for those of you that are locally hosted Sims, or if your Sims is centrally hosted, then you've got the Citrix link just here. But whichever one you download in Google Chrome, if I click onto this, the download will appear in the bottom left, but then you'll get this message. So Chrome is claiming that the link is dangerous, so it has blocked it. Now, when you see this message, you can still keep the link, but what you have to do is you have to go to the download section of Google Chrome. Now, you can do that by going to the menu option in the top right-hand corner, and there is a download section just here. Alternatively, you can hold the control key on your keyboard and press the letter J for Juliet. When you've done that, it will then bring you to the downloads that Google Chrome has attempted to download today. And as you can see, there is our version 44 Sims link. The system is saying that it's blocked it, so we can just go to keep dangerous file and then just keep anyway, which will then allow you to download and run that link. So the next bit that we'll talk about is regarding resetting passwords. Again, a common issue for September if you've been away over the summer and perhaps you can't remember your password when you come back into school. Now, there's a few different things that you can do to get your password reset. If you have your browser configured so that it remembers your Teachers to Parents password, then you will still be able to log in. But if you don't remember what that password is and you just want to change it anyway, then what you can do is once you are logged into Teachers to Parents from the main page, you can go to the icon in the top right that says change password, and you can change your password there. Alternatively, you can go into the admin section. In admin, you can go to the tab that says users. And from here, you will see a list of everybody that has access to the Teachers to Parents account. And what you can do is you can find your own username. So for example, this one is my own. And what you can do is you can either click on it and edit, or you can double click into the username. And you can just edit the password here to whatever you need it to be. Now, this is only really going to help you if you have forgotten your password, but you can still get into Teachers to Parents. As I say, that is if your browser perhaps is remembering your details, but you want to change them. For a lot of you, forgetting your password will be realized when you can't actually get into Teachers to Parents at all. And if you can't get into the system at all, then you're not going to be able to change that password. So a couple of things to try there. The first one will be to see if you've got a colleague in school who can get into Teachers to Parents. If they can get into Teachers to Parents, then they can change the password on your behalf. And again, that's done from this Users tab. So you would find the user that you wish to change the password for. So if I look at this one here, and again, we can go into that user, edit the password, and save it. And then all that you would say is you would get the password from your colleague, sign into Teachers to Parents, and then as soon as you're signed in, use the change password feature to change it to something secure for yourself. Now, if you can't remember your password and you can't log in and you don't have a colleague that can reset that for you, it's at that point that it's time to log a ticket with ourselves. At the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you how you can log a ticket from our support site, but obviously you can give us a call as well. So one more feature that I'd like to talk to you about is regarding our extended messaging on the text messaging system. So on your text messaging system, when you're composing a message, you will all see the character count. We're all used to it, and you'll see it just there. So 160 characters is the standard length of a text message, and that is what the system will be set to as a default. However, if we go into the admin section, on the first tab, which says options, there is a feature at the top just here, which says increase text message to 300 characters. So this will then allow you to type more in your text message. Now there's a tick box here, and it will also tell you when that tick box was last ticked or unticked in this case. And basically you can tick this box, you will get a message that pops up here. Okay, and then you can confirm that. The message is just regarding a charge that is incurred by using this feature. So just to explain a little bit more about that. If you enable this feature and then you type out a message that is longer than 160 characters, then there is a charge incurred on the system, which is 4 pence for everybody that receives that extended message. Now, this is regardless of the price plan that you are on with Teachers to Parents. So to break that down even more, for pay-as-you-go customers on Teachers to Parents, you will already be paying 4 pence per message of up to 160 characters. So if you enable this feature and then go over the 160, then it's just an extra 4 pence. So effectively doubling the cost of that message. For those of you on our unlimited package on Teachers to Parents, that package will cover you for an unlimited amount of messages that you send as long as they're 160 characters or less. So if you enable this feature and then go over the 160, you will incur that 4 pence charge for everybody that you send it to. So that's everything that there is to do with extended messages there. So to finish up on today's webinar, obviously we've spoken about quite a lot on there. A lot of the information that we've gone through is available in our FAQs and our user guides. And also when you sign into Teachers to Parents, some of you may still be getting the September pop-up in the center when you first log into this screen. If you don't, then what you can do in the bottom left-hand corner is you'll see this message about having 2 notices, and you can click on the little flag icon here to bring the pop-up back up. So the first one there is regarding our support webinar. You can click onto next message, and then we've got the September 2021 end of year guide and FAQs. So in here, if we scroll to the bottom, there's a couple of downloads for the FAQs and the end of year user guide as well. A lot of the information we've spoken about today, you will be able to find in those. Alternatively, in the top right hand corner, we've got our help section. When you go into help, the first tab that comes up, there is a link to our knowledge base website, which has got all kinds of information and user guides in there that you can search for. And then we've also put a few shortcut guides in here for you as well. We've also got a tab here that says contact us. So there is the telephone number and the opening times for our support team. Now, as a lot of you will be aware, September, it is our busiest time of year. The support team, you might not be able to get through to them on the phone straight away. So if you are struggling, then you can also log a ticket with us via our support website. So what you can do is you can click on this link just here, brings you to our support page. And what you can do is you can scroll down and you can search for frequently asked questions, either for school money or further down Teachers to Parents. So you can search for your query from there. Also, in the Teachers to Parents section, there are various FAQs in there that you can look for, which might solve your issue before logging the ticket. If, however, you do still need to log a ticket with us, then what you can do is you can scroll to the very bottom of the page, and there is this little blue icon here to submit a support ticket. And what you do is you click onto this, and then we scroll down. First thing to do is select the product that you wish to have support for. So if it's Teachers to Parents, please specify if it is the Teachers to Parents text messaging or whether it's the email system or the forms module. And then all you need to do here is put in your school name, your name, email address, school phone number, and then you can fill in the support type. The site's affected is just going to be yourselves unless you are working as part of a trust and you have the issue across the board. And then a summary of the issue and then any extra information for our support team. And then all you do is you hit submit, and that will submit a support ticket to our team for them to respond to. You should also get an automatic email once you've submitted that ticket as well, which will give you a case reference. Now, when you do get an email with a case reference in there, that case reference is very, very valuable should you need to chase up that support ticket, because when you do speak to one of us, if you give us that case number, we will be able to find it instantly. Okay, so that is everything that we have to talk about for today's webinar. So thank you very much for the time that you've spent with me this morning to go through some of those issues there. What we'll do is I'll just have a look to see if there were any questions asked during the webinar that haven't been answered. And if there are, then I'll endeavour to answer them now. Other than that, thank you very much for your time today. So I'm just going to pause for a moment just to see if there's anything that's been asked. Okay, so it looks like there's a couple of questions here. I'm just going to take a look and see if any of these can be answered here. Okay, so there is a question that has been asked. I'm not sure whether it's been answered yet, but I will take it anyway. There's a question from Katie regarding what seems to be that you have two like duplicated year groups or classes in the system. So I can show you this very briefly. So in Teachers to Parents, it's all to do with the manually added contacts that you have in the system. So again, going to admin and contacts. Now, as you can see, these ones that we've imported, they all have a year group and a class which is coming across from your MIS. So if we look at one of these, and you will see that you've got the year group and the class there. Now, if you have this, then what you'll need to do is when you are manually adding a contact in, you will need to make sure that the year group and the class is typed exactly the same as it is for those that are being imported. Now, sometimes, so this happens with some Sims customers that we have, there might be a double spacing between the year word and then the number. So you see year, space, space, and 1. Now, if you are adding a manual contact and you only put one space between that, then our system will treat that as a separate year group to the other year ones, which will mean that on the main page of Teachers to Parents, when you're choosing a class to send out to, you will end up seeing 2 year 1 classes or 2 classes, depending on how you've typed it. So if you are experiencing on this page in the drop down, you're seeing duplicated year groups or classes, what I would recommend is looking in the admin section under the contacts tab and just checking any manually added contacts that you've got to make sure that the year group and the class that you've inserted for them matches exactly what the imported students have. I think my colleague has potentially just answered that question for you as well, Katie. So hopefully that helps. So there's another question here from Vicky regarding if a parent only wants to receive emails and not text messages. Very, very good question. So we built a feature into the system which you can use. And again, this is in the contact section within the admin part of Teachers to Parents. So we're still on the contact section. So if you do have somebody that does not want to receive text messages, only emails, then what you can do is you can edit their details. So I'm going to use this contact here. And you will see when we're editing a contact, this applies to both imported contacts and manually added ones as well. You will see next to each piece of information, we have a do not contact tick box. If you tick this box for that relevant piece of information, so for example, the phone number, and then save, this means now that whenever you send out a text message, whether it's to the whole school or to this person's class, whatever, if the contact details are in red, they will not receive that message. So if you are wanting to stop the system from sending text messages to particular parents, then it's just a simple case of in the contact section, whichever child it applies to, just tick the do not contact tick box next to the piece of information that you don't want to use to send to parents. Okay, so hopefully that helps with that one, Vicky. Along the lines of do not contact as well, if you ever want to see, in short, those that you have ticked that tick box for, there is a report for it. So in reports, you can go to a report that says do not contact, and anybody that you have ticked the box for to not contact them, then they will appear in this report as well. But again, in the admin section on the contacts tab, there's a little message down here. Messages will not be sent to mobile numbers and emails highlighted in red, which is what this means. A follow-up question there from Vicky. Does the do not contact button stay ticked even after updating each year with Wand? Yes, it will stay ticked as long as it's the same student details that are coming across. It should stay ticked. So once you've done the update with Wand, if you just want to double check it, then it should be fine. But as far as I'm aware, that it does stay ticked, so you should be absolutely okay. No problem, Vicky. Thank you. Okay, so there's another question here from Leslie regarding adding new children into Teachers to Parents before being able to import them in September. So I can see from the question here that you added them in as visitors as such, which for those of you that don't know how to do this, again in the contacts in the admin section, when adding in manually adding in a contact, what we would usually recommend is you can add the child in, but then in the year group you could put in something like pre-admin or visitor. This is just because obviously we don't import the children until they're classed as on roll in your MIS. So if you want them in the system before then, you can manually add them in from here. Now, what this means is that when in September they do join the school and they become imported, it might duplicate. because when you do an import, the manually added contacts without the time and date, they are unaffected by an import that you do from your MIS. So if you've manually added, say, 20 pre-admission children in, say, July, because you wanted to send some information out to them, then in September, when they become enrolled into your MIS and they're imported into Teachers2Parents, effectively you will see a duplicated contact in there. Now, for this, you will then just be working your way down this list, looking for any duplicated students, and those that are duplicated, you will see that one of them will have a last imported date and one of them won't. So it'll be a case of deleting the one that doesn't have the last imported date. Another way to make this easier is if you are adding in visitors manually, as I say, when you add them in for the year group, we would suggest putting in visitor or maybe something like pre-admin in the year group column, because then in September, when you want to delete all of those manually added contacts, those manually added visitors, then what you can do is you can organize the data here by year group by clicking on the year group column. Then, if you wanted to, say, delete all of the nursery children, you can see quite easily here, this is the bunch of nursery children that perhaps we added in manually, so you can simply just tick them all from this list and then delete them in the bottom right-hand corner. So that's probably the best way to manage that situation. I hope that helps. So there's a question from Mel here regarding the purpose of the pupil or staff/other part when manually adding somebody into the system. So if I just go down to the add button here. So basically, if you have the box for parent ticked when adding in a contact, then what this means is when you send a message to all students on the main page, then they will be included in that list. Whereas if you tick the staff/other, then they won't be included in that. So just to show you that in action on the main homepage here, select contacts, all students will display all parental contacts that you've got in the system. So if when you are adding a contact in, you tick the staff/other, then it won't include them when you are sending a message out to all students. So if you're adding a staff member into the system, there are usually two things that we recommend to do. Once you put the name of the staff member in and the details for them, we usually recommend checking this box and then also the other staff one that you'll see in your groups down here. So the parent one is mainly used if you were adding in just an extra parental contact for whatever reason for a child. Hope that one helps, Bill. Okay, so there was another question that was asked. Where's it gone? Yeah, so there's a question asked by Nikki saying that your classes haven't automatically updated. I think, Nikki, I think my colleague has just answered your question privately, but this is potentially something that we need to follow up with you separately. As I mentioned earlier on, it's all about checking that last import date and also how you are importing. So depending on whether you are, I can see that you're using Sims there. So if you have the link with Sims, you need to be running that to allow the import, or if you're using Wand, you will need to use that to import data as well. But if they're still not updating from that, this is something that we perhaps need to reach out to you separately about. If you can send us your details, I think we will get an email address from you at the end of the webinar anyway, but we'll be in touch and we'll look at that on an individual one-to-one basis. Okay, I think that is just about all of the questions that we've had. If there are any questions that we haven't answered, then we will get a list of them afterwards and we will try to reach out to you individually as soon as we possibly can. As I say, you can contact our support team via the usual methods, the usual channels, and please do so. but we'll leave it for today. For those of you that are here still, we will be sending out a recording of the webinar anyway, so you can always watch this back should you wish to recap on anything, or if there's anybody that you want, anybody else in school that you wanted to see, then they'll be able to watch that as well. But that's us all done for today. So thank you everybody for the time that you've spent with me today, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. You'll receive some communication about that in the future. Thank you very much, everybody.